Hello there. Now that you're here, please subscribe, so you'll never miss out again. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a comment, suggestion, or to ask a question.
Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Those who think they can love only the people they prefer do not love at all. Love discovers truths about individuals that others cannot see. What if everything in the world were a misunderstanding? What if laughter were really tears? If I were to wish for anything, I should not wish for wealth and power, but for the passionate sense of the potential, for the eye which, ever young and ardent, sees the possible. Pleasure disappoints, possibility never. And what wine is so sparkling, what so fragrant, what so intoxicating as possibility? Once you label me, you negate me. To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought, which they seldom use. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. People understand me so poorly that they don't even understand my complaint about them not understanding me. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. The most common form of despair is not being who you are. It is perfectly true, as philosophers say, that life must be understood backwards. But they forget the other proposition, that it must be lived forwards. The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all. I see it all perfectly. There are two possible situations. One can either do this or that. My honest opinion and my friendly advice is this: do it or do not do it. You will regret both. What labels me negates me. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. The tyrant dies and his rule is over. The martyr dies and his rule begins. Face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say. Yes, to be sure, but He does what is still more wonderful. He makes saints out of sinners. To cheat oneself out of love is the most terrible deception. It is an eternal loss for which there is no reparation, either in time or in eternity. If anyone on the verge of action should judge himself according to the outcome, he would never begin. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen, but, if one will, are to be lived. Many of us pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that we hurry right on past it. It is perhaps the misfortune of my life that I am interested in far too much, but not decisively in any one thing. All my interests are not subordinated in one, but stand on an equal footing. Don't you know that a midnight hour comes when everyone has to take off his mask? Do you think life always lets itself be trifled with? Do you think you can sneak off a little before midnight to escape this? It is impossible to exist without passion. There is nothing with which every man is so afraid as getting to know how enormously much he is capable of doing and becoming. How absurd men are. They never use the liberties they have. They demand those they do not have. They have freedom of thought. They demand freedom of speech. It is the duty of the human understanding to understand that there are things which it cannot understand. The self-assured believer is a greater sinner in the eyes of God than the troubled disbeliever. I feel as if I were a piece in a game of chess. When my opponent says of it, that piece cannot be moved,